So today we're going to talk about a TikTok video that inspired an article that goes over the top 5 iconic Gen X slang words that we had and that they're poised to make a comeback. Let's see if you know which ones they are. Stick around. Let's talk about it.
All I need are some tasty waves, cool buzz, and I'm fine.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am Rad, back with another video. And today, as always, I want to focus on pop culture and the Gen X lifestyle, the Gen X generation. So I like recently coming across a lot of these articles regarding Gen X, obviously. Um, there's a TikTok video. I'm going to drop a link to it in the description because I know, probably most of us don't have TikTok. I do, although I'm barely ever on it. So instead of just showing you the video, I figured this individual, Cecily Nobler, created this article on Upworthy and entitled Brilliant Video Argues for 5 Iconic Gen X Words That Are Poised for a Cultural Comeback. You totally want to see this happen. So I'd rather kind of go over the article and then just to be fun, I spent a lot of time trying to find certain clips from movies that I remember from the 80s and 90s that use these words. So I'll drop some of them in there. And as we go through 5 to 1, let me know in the comments if you think that 1 should have been 5 or 2 should have been 1. And then, of course, add any other words that you think about in there. But these, in his eyes, are the top 5. So let's get into it. Actually, y'all see that boombox there. That obviously is probably new or it's fake and it's a prop, but that's actually a pretty badass color. So let's get into this. So, as a proud Gen Xer, I'm probably a little biased as to how totally sick or dope slang was. A person is considered part of the X generation if they're born between 1965 and around 1980. Not around 1980, it is 1980. So we have words and phrases that were big in both the 80s and 90s. In the 80s, it was stuff inspired by Californians, particularly those who lived in the valley, like rad, stoked, tubular, and grody to the max. Although I don't think I ever used that one. I might have said grody, but not grody to the max. But it did exist. The 90s Gen Xer elevated to a more intelligent sounding terms like dope, wiggity whack, and illin. Now, dope, yes. Wiggity whack. I do know that's crisscross, right? But I never went around saying wiggity whack. We would say whack, right? And illin, in my opinion, that's a Run DMC term that was around in the 80s, correct? Maybe it was made in the 90s, but I think it was made in the 80s. I never really said illin. I said chillin, right? I still do. And as we get into this article, you'll see a lot of these are still words that most of us probably use on a daily basis. So they're not necessarily poised to come back for Gen Xers, but I think that other generations, they're poised for them to start using them. Maybe. I don't know. Let's get into it. So, luckily, we have movies like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Fast Times at Ridgemont High, plus bands like Run DMC, the Beastie Boys, and Criss Cross to keep these words forever in our vernacular. But most, if not all of them, deserve to make a true comeback. So the TikTok video is from this guy, Joe Boyd, who on TikTok is at Deconstructed Pastor. And he shares what he believes are the top 5 Gen X slang terms of all time. In the number 5 slot, he lists psych.
Want a lick? Psych. You want some ice?
Which he explains is the odd concept we had saying one thing and then immediately admitting it was a joke. Like, for example, this Gen X slang article was published in the Harvard Science Journal. Psych. So here's the actual video. You'll see him rolling around right there. So definitely go over there and check it out if you have TikTok. So at number 4, Joe tells us it's duh and variations of no duh or no dur or der or doy in very typical Gen X fashion. He explains this term just using it. It just means, duh. I think we all know that, right?
Summer shall not fade. Fat! Did you write that?
Duh, it's like a famous quote.
From where?
Cliff's Notes.
Oh.
Number 3 on the list is totally, right? I have it in my candle company name, which if you can see the banner below, that is Totally Rad Candle Company, my wife and I's company that we started. Just to give a little breakdown of this, I create scents based on 80s movie characters, right? And if you see this guy right here, that is Spicoli. And I actually do have a Spicoli candle that is cannabis and various spices. Now, when I say cannabis, it doesn't smell like weed, okay? Because that's, to me, that just smells gross. It's actually one of my favorite ones. So put a lot of time and effort into this. Definitely, I have them set up in my shop. You can click there, check them out. These things, folks, not only are they going to smell up your house, this 8-ounce candle will burn for over 40 hours and they smell wonderful. And I created the labels to look like the VHS covers from the movies of that time using the same font or similar font. So definitely click the link, click the shop, check them out, buy one. I'd love to send you one. And you give me the feedback on it, but I think you're absolutely going to love them and display them on your shelf. So I like the word totally. Again, the easiest to explain it is by using the random sentence. This just sounds totally. It just meant obviously, yes, we agree. I'll add to that, totally was used as an intensifier for an adjective. Totally rad, totally gross, or totally whack. Or how Nicolas Cage uses it here.
Now fuck off for sure. Like totally.
Number 2, the second word, not number 2, if you know what I mean. He says with authority is dude.
If you guys are really us, what number are we thinking of? 69, dudes!
To put it to the younger generational terms, he clarifies that dude was our bro. He explains you can use it in many ways, like what's going on, or dude, or that dude, or this dude, lots of dudes. Now, I saw a comedian several years ago that was like, dude, the word dude can be used based on the mood, right? It can be used like you're happy, dude, excited, dude, scared, right? I'm not going to do them all, right? Sad, pissed. I mean, there's so many different ways you can use that same word. And based on the tone of our language, it's going to personify what it is you're trying to say, right? So I definitely use dude all the time on a daily basis. And coming in at number 1, again, you let me know if you agree. Number 1 on the list is hard to argue against is awesome.
Awesome. Totally awesome.
Now, this is one of those Gen X words that never really went away because how else would you describe a sunset or a sandwich? In fact, it's noted in the comments that both awesome and dude are still used daily. I use awesome once again daily. I think, let me scroll back up in here. I use, which one was number 1 again? Psych. I don't really use that one every day, every once in a while, but I do like that word. That's funny. Duh. Nowadays, if I were to say that, people would be very offended by it. I don't really care, but I mean, think about it. If I were to say that to my wife, that would just piss her off because it's sarcastic. But it's still very practical, especially with some of the younger Gen Z kids. Totally. Again, I use that every day. Dude, awesome. I use that every day. And dude, I use that every day. So I still use, the only one I don't use would be psych on a daily basis. So on a subreddit, Gen Xer, a person posted. Now, I don't have Reddit. I know Brandon at Gen X POV, he's on Reddit. So maybe he can go and confirm this. Again, I'm not on Reddit because there's a lot of weird people on there. Curious to know what Gen X slang everyone used or still uses. This question resonated because over 400 people chimed in and came up with a few even I had forgotten. Many people echo Joe's sentiment about the word dude, though one points out the magical hybridization of the word dude or man, which is now just dude man. Don't know about that. I don't say dude man. Another claims that they came up with an entire phrase. Quote, my husband swears he invented the phrase cool beans. It's an ongoing argument in our household. Another Redditor adds, I've uttered cool beans in front of my kids. They looked at me like I had grown a second head. And then another TikTok I'll put down there. This is actually kind of cute. To that end, lots of Gen X parents and teachers get a kick out of making younger generations guess the meaning of our slang. And this fun TikTok at Ghost Mama, Ghost Mama tries to teach her daughter the meaning of a handful of terms. The daughter does, she does pretty good. As they say here, the daughter gets a couple of them right, like big time and bodacious, but adorably falls on space cadet. She asks, isn't that a profession, right? Her most inventive answer involves the word dink, which means to her, which means dual income, no kids. I will have to say, I don't really think that that was a Gen X term. I hear, and there's a lot of videos that you can watch about it on YouTube about dink, dual income, no kids, which are, I think, the older millennials, mid-aged millennials, maybe older Gen Zs, seems to be a real big thing about they both work, they don't have kids, they love it. And then on TikTok too, you can see a bunch of videos where people are miserable now because they have all the money in the world, but they don't have kids. And to me, I'd rather struggle financially and have my children just to have my children than to have two incomes and supposedly all this money, but then not have my kids. So I don't really think that's a Gen Z or Gen X word. What do you think? Let me know. So she's told it's an acronym and guesses don't invent Nutella kids. It's perfectly rad and an awesome guess. She's all of that and a bag of chips, you might say. Now, I do also remember that. She's all that and a bag of chips. So with that said, Gen X family, what are some words that weren't mentioned in this article or some of the extra words from Reddit that you used back in the day and you may still use right now? I'd be very interested in knowing. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video and feature some of y'all's comments about that. And then also my friends from across the pond, what are some Gen X slang words that are different from what we used that that y'all used over there that maybe we don't know? I'd be really interested in knowing about that. And with that said, if this is something that you enjoyed, please consider liking the video, sharing the video, subscribing to this channel. And with that said, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next video.